And you're watching Sporting Icons.
So the end is not too far away for Anthony Joshua in regards to his own professional boxing career. And this is what Anthony Joshua had to say. This isn't the start of my career. I'm coming towards the end of my career. 5 years left, that's basically an Olympic cycle. I've got an Olympic cycle and a little bit more left. I'm coming towards the end of my career. When you see the next Olympics happen is when I'll be coming to the end of my career and the next generation will be coming through. Anthony Joshua's statement. So there you go. He's talking 4 or 5 years time, because the next Olympics in theory should be in 3 years time, really, shouldn't it? Because this year's Olympics of Tokyo 21 should have happened last year. So the next Olympics 2024. I'm presuming that's what they're going to do, unless they're going to do it 4 years from this year, so 2025. I don't quite know. But either way, I can fully understand what it is that he's talking about. But for me, I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually retires at the end of this year. Reason being, Tyson Fury and himself, all going well, will have 2 fights this year. So whoever wins these fights, or however these 2 fights pan out, the winner and the loser, Fury Joshua, I won't be at all surprised if both of these guys retire at the end of this year. A couple of reasons really. I suppose the first one will be, especially if it's for Undisputed. Because the winner for Undisputed, where do they go? What more do they have to achieve? There's that one. Financially, even up to this point, both of these guys would have earned more money than what they ever thought they were going to make. Of course, Fury and Joshua would have got into boxing, of course, originally for legacy, most importantly, but of course, they want to get out, or they want to get into boxing and out of boxing with a healthy bank balance, of course, their health and this, that, and the other, get out quickly. At this point, both of these guys would have made much more money than they thought they were going to. Add their purses for back-to-back fights against each other. Any fight that they have after then, as much as I want to see, and many of you guys want to see, several fights involving both of these guys, win, lose, or draw between Fury and Joshua, there's plenty more fights. Joshua versus Dillian Whyte rematch, a Fury versus Dillian Whyte fight, a Joshua versus Wilder fight, Joshua versus Usyk, Fury versus Usyk, and so forth. Joe Joyce throw in there, a couple of others throw in there as well. So there are these fights, and they are very interesting for you and me, but how interesting are they for them? At the end of the day, people do forget boxing is a business. Because if you've already achieved everything, if you've already become undisputed, especially for the winner, where do you go? Where's the motivation? When you look at your bank balance, I don't need to do this anymore. I've earned multi-millions. These 2 fights between Fury and Joshua, they're going to be earning easily 150 million each for those 2 fights. Correct? So any fight that they have after then, as much as they're big for you and me and we want to see them, financially it's going to feel like they're actually stepping backwards. Because they're not going to earn even close to the amount of money fighting anybody else out there. And that's the truth of it. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if both of these guys end up retiring once the second fight is complete between these two. The winner, where does he go from there? The loser, where's the motivation? Okay, but if it ends up continuing and going on to 2024 Olympics, 2025, however it's going to be, again, it wouldn't surprise me because, again, Joshua, he doesn't have miles on the clock, does he? He's only had 46 amateur fights. He's only had 25 currently professional fights. Hasn't got miles on the clock. He didn't go into each and every fight and get beat up. Same with Fury. Doesn't happen. So they could continue until then. Of course, at that point, they're going to be 35, 36 years old. Could they go on for longer? I mean, potentially, depends on their condition, depends on their motivation, much like a Vladimir Klitschko, a Vitaly Klitschko. Currently, you're looking at the likes of Povetkin and that, for example. So, yes, certainly. And at that point, we are talking about the new generation coming through. Some fighters that currently we won't know who they are, quite possibly. Okay? New generation of this Olympics, and currently in that as well, we talk about Fraser Clark. But again, Fraser Clark, he's over 30 years old anyway. So once the Olympic Games happen for him this year, hopefully he wins. I mean, that'd be great. Of course, he's a guy in my intro, and I interviewed him a few months ago. That'll pop up at the end of this video, funny enough. But it will also be part of this generation. Dillian White is part of this generation. Usyk, this generation. Wilder, this generation. Andy Ruiz Jr., this generation. The next generation, of course, we're talking about Daniel Dubois, Stephen Robinson, Fabio Wardley, for us here in the UK, plus a couple of others. And then, of course, we've got other ones coming through. The Delicious Oreo, that's his nickname, okay? He could be the next generation for 2024, okay? But there could be a few more that we haven't heard of. Maybe they won't even go to the Olympics. They'll just do well in the amateurs and turn pro like Daniel Dubois did or Tyson Fury did, for example. So there's quite a few coming through. At that point, again, I think it will be dependent on what he has achieved up to that point. If he's already been undisputed at that point and he's still doing well, why not continue? Why not get a bit more money? But how much money do you really need? Maybe a question that he can have answering for himself. But at that point, you're looking at the new crop, those who are turning professional at that point, big, heavy, strong, motivated heavyweights, younger heavyweights, faster heavyweights, excited heavyweights. At that point, do you really need it anymore? Getting punched in the head and going through the rigorous training camps and this, that, and the other? I don't know. But will Joshua achieve everything and walk out happy at that point? Again, I think a lot of it depends on this year as to what happens with Tyson Fury. If he loses both Tyson Fury fights, how happy is he going to be? Especially if he never gets another fight with Fury. That's going to niggle him, isn't it? Much like with Tyson Fury, if he loses both times to Joshua, it's going to niggle him. If they both get a win each, at some point, they're going to want to have a third fight to unbalance the scales, aren't they? So I think a lot of it depends on what happens this year. Anyway, that's Joshua's statement that he's only got 4 or 5 years left in the game. And of course, he's talking about 2024, potentially 2025 Olympic Games. That's when you'll see the end of his career. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.